hill country, we have the Texas cedar, the juniper. So of the two, I prefer the red cedar. Nothing against the hill country. This one's like, oh, let's see, how are the berries? Yeah, it might still be okay. Okay. So multiple uses for the cedars, and in this case particularly the red cedar. So the berries that we have here right now actually have a fairly high sugar content. They were considered to be a snack food by the Native Americans. Now warning, it's very resinous, so it's like eating candied rosemary. That one's good. Yeah, look for the lighter gray ones, the darker gray ones, they're like this. Yep, that'll be a good one. So yeah, juniper, cedar, same thing. Juniper is Virginia. So if you notice on these the berries, so the flavor, it's kind of an acquired taste. Horehound is another thing. But if you look at these berries and you find a light blue one and you rub it a little, you'll see that that light blue color comes off. So that's wild yeast. So you got sugar and you got wild yeast. Now mash it up, you wait 3 days, you got alcohol. Most wild yeast die at about 3 to 5% alcohol. So it won't be a really strong alcohol, but there's a whole culture devoted to fermenting juices and juniper berries and all this kind of stuff. Yeast supplier, and in the case of the red cedar, actually having enough sugar that just the berries mashed with some water will produce alcohol. So 3 to 5% alcohol. Nothing to write home about. Okay, how many of you have ever heard of the alcohol called absinthe? Okay, so absinthe uses a herb called wormwood, and the belief was that the wormwood was a hallucinogen. It's not. What absinthe has, the wormwood has, is a chemical called thujon. What thujon does is in your liver, you have enzymes whose purpose is to break down alcohol. Thujon comes in and locks up those enzymes for about 18 hours. So then any alcohol you drink doesn't get broken down. Use this knowledge wisely. Because in large amounts, thujon can be a liver damager thing. There's one thing that suddenly then it unlocks, and then you get this whole huge slug of alcohol just slamming into your liver. You got to be a professional to really handle it well. But we got kids here, so I'm trying to. Okay, whatever. So I mean, it got me through grad school. So hey, you take a pint jar and put just 1 finger's worth of crushed up, chopped up the cedar leaves of the red cedar in the bottom. Then fill it to the top or to the threads with vodka. Cap it, let it sit for 6 weeks. Before going out, or better yet, before staying in, playing video games or watching movies with your buddies, take like a teaspoon. And just, suddenly your night got a lot cheaper. It doesn't take much after that. I drink and I know things. I thought that was the best quote ever. But yeah, so it slows down. You don't want to shut down. You don't want to take more than like a teaspoon of it, because you don't want to shut down everything. You just want to disable like a quarter. Just kind of slow the process. Now, one thing I have done is I told my daughters that, okay, in my house, basically the rule is you can do one stupid thing at a time. Because every time you do a stupid thing, the risk of disaster happens triple. So if you're doing one stupid thing, okay, you got about a 33% chance of disaster. You do 2 stupid things, now you got a 99% chance of stupidity, something bad happening. If you're doing 3 stupid things, now you got 270% chance, I'm pretty sure I did, of disaster occurring. So if you're going to be at a party, okay, one stupid thing, but okay, I've raised making drinks that someone else drinks. That's, now you're doing two stupid things. And it's like a 99% chance of disaster. But at least smell your drink. Because enough people know about the Cedar trick that it's become popular as the new date rape on campuses. Because humans, basically, yes. Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, people. We'll pick it up on the way out here.
How many berries do you recommend eating in a day?
As many as you can handle. You can build up a tolerance.
Okay.
The berries don't really have the thujone. One thing you may know, if you eat like a handful, you might get some weird stomach things going on at first because you've just filled your stomach with a bunch of yeast and so forth. But it's something that's worth building up a tolerance for. Okay, another thing you can do with cedar. Anyone here use balsamic vinegar in your cooking? Good stuff. Expensive, but so I make like a Texas balsamic vinegar using the cedar. For this, I use a mixture of the leaves and wood and apple cider vinegar as the base vinegar. So the leaves, again, just the green leaves mashed up. I'll snip some off and chop them up, grind them up, rupture the cell wall, pound them with the meat tenderizer. Tax time, mash them up. The wood, I'll find a branch. This is a good one right here. That needs to be trimmed. So, bigger than an inch in diameter, smaller than 2 inches in diameter. And I'll get a section, a little over a foot long. I'll carve off the outer bark. Get rid of the outer bark, the stringy outer bark. You want the inner wood, where it's kind of reddish and tan and colors like that. And then you have this stick, and you take a propane torch, and you burn one side of it. You are charring it, kind of like charring a steak. Dramatic reaction, you're caramelizing the sugars, you're doing chemistry. So it's science, so you can do it in your house. So you char one side, but leave the other side as is. And you take your knife, and you carve up 2 piles, half from the unburned and half from the burned, charred side. Mix those together so you have equal amounts of mashed up green leaves, charred wood, and uncharred. I really wish I had 3 hands. Charred, uncharred wood. Mix those together. Then you take your bottle of Bragg's apple cider vinegar or some apple cider vinegar. In the 750 milliliter size bottle, the standard one you would get at the grocery store, you pour off about between half a cup and a full cup. It's just kind of eyeballing it. Set that aside. You want it to use it for supper or something that night. And then you take this mixture and you start shoving it into the bottle. So the leaves and the 2 types of wood. Shove it in there. Cap it. Set it in a warm windowsill for again about 6 weeks. Let the flavors diffuse from the cedar into the apple cider vinegar. And then after 6 weeks, strain out the wood and the leaves. You don't have to. Frankly, I don't because I'm lazy. If I use a strainer, I have to wash a strainer, so I can just leave the wood in there. So. But it does become a little trickier than when you're actually trying to use it. But what you have then really is a good mimic or made from cedars. Now, if you're allergic to cedar pollen, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. It's just cruel sometimes, but yeah. And we're actually, if you're ever in the hill country, they're just entering the cedar pollen. Unfortunate.
Easiest way to tell the difference between the 2 cedars.
Okay, great question. How do you tell the difference between the Texas cedar and the Virginia cedar? So think Christmas tree versus Easter egg. So if we look around now, the Virginia cedar, the red cedar we have here, they're in the Christmas tree shape. Generally a single trunk Christmas tree shape. If you head out into the hill country, you will see the cedars there are round, usually multi-trunk, and a lot shorter than this. They don't get much more than about 10 feet tall. But the red cedar, the one with the thujone, the Texas cedar does not have the thujone. And the berries of the Texas cedar, the round ones, do not have the high sugar. So here in this area, you're lucky with the high sugar, high thujone. It's Saturday night, sort of cedar. But like I said, the Texas cedar is going to be round, squat like an egg.
This is Virginia cedar.
This is Virginia cedar, yeah. Also known as red cedar. Yeah. Juniperus Virginia. Any other questions about the cedar? Also great campfire for starting. The oil burns hot and it smells good, so you can shave it. And even when it's still green, a lot of times there's enough oil in the wood that it will start. So if you shave it down into like toothpick-sized pieces, good fire stuff.
Question?
Yes.
So my kids were told not to make eating utensils out of cedar wood.
It's mainly going to be a flavor issue.
Oh, it's not dangerous.
Don't let them drink alcohol because there's going to be some of the food junk. Unless
Okay.
you're cool, Mom. then-
Okay.
We're talking Boy Scouts here. Yeah, you don't let them do it.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Any other questions about the cedar tree? Otherwise, is there anything under the cedar tree? Ah, poison ivy. Okay. Some wine cups.